3. Peter and John went up together in the temple, the hour of prayer being the 9th hour. A certain man lame from his mother's womb was carried, and they laid daily at the gate of the temple, which is called Beautiful, to ask alms of them that entered the temple. Who, seeing Peter and John about to go into the temple, asked alms. Peter, fastening his eyes upon him with John, said, "Look on us." He gave heed unto them, expecting to receive something of them. And Peter said, "Silver and gold have I none, such as I have give I thee. In the name of Jesus Christ of Nazareth, rise up and walk." He took him by the right hand and lifted him up. Immediately his feet and ankle bones received strength. And he, leaping up, stood and walked and entered with them into the temple, walking, leaping and praising God. For just a few moments tonight, I want to talk to you beyond the gate called Beautiful.
Come on, yes, yes, yes.
Look at somebody and say, there's something beyond the gate called Beautiful. Say, I know you're in a pretty place. There's something greater. Amen. Now, if you're going to help the pastor preach tonight, look at your one sitting next to you and say, I'm going to help pastor preach. Amen. Now I want you to put your Bibles down. I want you to lift your hands, or clap your hands rather, unto the Lord. Come on, let's lift our voices. Amen. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Amen. You can be seated. Amen. The Jewish historian by the name of Josephus writes in his writings about the gate called Beautiful. He says that there were 9 gates, 9 other gates in the temple. And that all of these gates were covered with silver and gold. But when he describes the gate called Beautiful, he said the gate called Beautiful was made out of Corinthian brass, which was the most purest brass of all. And the reason it was not covered with gold was because history says that when the sun hit it, it looked like gold. And that they put thick plates and decorated the gate called Beautiful with thick plates of gold and silver, which it was decorated. And Josephus says that it was roughly 70 or 75 feet high, and the gate was 60 feet wide. It was at this beautiful gate that this lame man was brought and laid to.
Right.
He was laid there every day. Every day of his life he was laid there. The Bible says that he was a cripple or a lame from his mother's womb, which meant that something happened during her pregnancy, or maybe just after. Maybe she was hit by somebody and crippled her child in her womb. Maybe she fell. There was an accident that crippled her child. But whatever, when this baby was born, her baby boy, which should have been born normal, was now lame and he could not walk.
Right.
Which means, y'all don't have to say nothing. I done preached this once and people got healed.
Come on.
Which means that this man did not choose to be the way he was.
Right.
He had no choice in being lame. It was not of his choosing. Something happened beyond his control that made him lame. And now all of his life he has taken and laid at the temple gate called Beautiful. It was the most prized gate of the temple. Josephus says it outvalued all the other gates compared together. This gate was beautiful. And there he was laid. But he was not a cripple of his own doings. He was a cripple because something happened in his life out of his control. You'll be surprised at how many people sit in a Pentecostal chair, a Pentecostal pew, all of their life, crippled. They are not, maybe not of their own choosing, but they are a cripple in the, come on somebody. They are crippled. They come to church and they see the beauty of the worship, and they see the beauty of the singing, the beauty of the preaching or whatever, but they cannot go any further than that. They are just laying there at that gate. Every day this man laid there, Sister Tracy. Every day he had to hear people worshiping God in the temple. In a place, Sister Adams, that he could not go, for the law forbade him to go in the temple as a cripple. The closest that he could get to his God was at the gate called Beautiful. That was as close as he could get. He could get no closer than the gate. Every day he had to listen to people come out and describe the beauty that was on the inside of the temple, but he could never go in and see the beauty on the inside. Every day he had to listen to the people come out and talk about how great the worship was in the temple, how magnificent the priests looked, how magnificent. He could hear the horns and the trumpets blow, but he could never participate in what was beyond the gate in the temple. And you'll be surprised at how many people come to church and they sit just outside the gate and they wish they could go further in, but they can't go any further in the gate. All because they got a crippleness or a lameness in their spirit.
Come on.
And the Bible says that there were people that carried him. Probably there was 4 men that carried, 4 friends that brought him and carried him every day, Sister Adams, to the temple. Every day they brought him and laid him at the temple. He was independent or dependent upon these 4 friends or 2 friends, however many they were, but he could not get to the temple or the temple gate without his friend. He had to be carried. You, listen, there are people sitting here right now. You got to be carried in every service. I'm listening to the preacher. We got to carry you through every service. The singers got to carry you. The worshipers have got to carry you. And the preachers have got to carry you. You got to be carried in every service. We have to worship for you. We got to pray for you. We got to dance for you. We got to run for you. We got to carry you. And if you never get involved, you never get nothing out. You just enjoy the singing and stuff. We're carrying you every service. You got to be carried every time you get down. We got to preach you up. Every time you get your feelings hurt, we got to preach you up. Somebody's got to pat you on the back and lift you up a little bit. Oh, come on, folks. I want to ask you a question. How long are you going to let people carry you through your walk with God? How much longer do we have to carry you through your walk with God? We can't even have good revival because we're too carrying one another too much. We can't call somebody. How much longer do you have to be carried before you learn that you can be healed and delivered and nobody's got to carry you? I don't mind carrying babies. I understand why I got to carry a baby. I understand why I got to pick a baby up and birth a baby and help a baby. But I don't understand people that's been in this thing longer than I have or as long as I have. And we still got to carry you in every service. You still got the same problem today that you had when you walked through these doors. And you're no closer to Jesus now than you was the day you walked in the door. How long are you going to be carried? Look at somebody say, you don't need to be carried. Look at say, you just need to grow up. You know, there's something wrong with the child. There's nothing wrong with a child that's 6 months old or 2 years old or 3 years old that wants to be carried or whatever. But when that kid gets 10, 15, or 20 years old and I'm still having to carry him, it ain't my fault. It ain't the mother's fault. There's something wrong in the body of the child. There's something that's not connecting in the brain. Something's been disconnected. Something's been cut off. And there's something wrong. And when you get the child checked out, there's something wrong with somebody who's been in this thing 15 or 20 years and you still got the same problem you did the day you were born. Come on, somebody. Yeah, I know you don't kind of stuff, do you? See, there's something wrong with you. It ain't the church's fault. There ain't nothing wrong with the mother. And I know there ain't nothing wrong with the daddy. So it's got to be the kid's fault. Because the daddy says, I'll heal you. And the mama will always nurture you. I say people, I said the mother.
Come on.
But somewhere or another, you got to make up your mind you're not going to be carried no more. Because see, when you start having to be carried spiritually, that means everybody's got to pay attention to you. You know you're having to be carried when you got to be the center of everybody's attention. And if you don't get it, you start pouting. And so this man's carried every day, laid at the gate of the temple. And Sister Adams, there's only one reason he's there. He is there, or rather there is a purpose for him to be there. And every day he goes is for the same purpose. He's wanting money. In other words, the only reason that he's being carried to that gate is for his own selfish purpose. And in other words, the only reason he's going to church is so that somebody will minister to him, because he ain't got enough to minister to nobody.
Come on.
Come on.
Come on, somebody.
Come on.
Yeah, it's always about, I understand kids. I understand babies that have to be fed all the time. I understand that. I understand that there's babies in here. That little one back there, Shannon's got to be fed because he can't do it himself. I understand that. I understand that. But if he's 15 years old and I still got to put a spoon in his mouth, there's something wrong with him.
Amen. Yeah.
In other words, come on, somebody. You'll be surprised at how many people that come to church, and the only reason they come to church is to be spoon-fed, because they got so much lameness in their spirit, they cannot minister to nobody else. And the whole service has got to be about them. And everything the church does has got to be about them. They can't do nothing for the kingdom of God unless it involves them. Somebody. They can't do nothing unless it ministers to them. As a child, there's something wrong. There's a lame. I understand babies. I understand that. But there's something wrong when I'm supposed to be grown, and I still think church service is all about me. Come on, somebody. It's all about me getting ministered to. It's all about me getting preached to. It's all about me getting prophesied over. It's all about me. It's all about me. No, it's not about me. It's about Him. And it's amazing how many people do not minister to Him.
Come on.
Set service after service. And it ain't just right, they sit there. And you know, it's amazing that God has to shake heaven and earth to get some people to move.
Right.
It's amazing that God has to shake heaven and earth to get some people to just clap their hands. I mean, I almost got to throw them in a half Nelson and do a body slam just to get them to praise. The rest of the time, they sit there looking like they've been sucking lemons for 10 days. Other than that, they never do move. They never do lift their voice. They never do nothing.
Come on. Come on.
It's all about me. And so it's all about Him. He just wants His little nickel and dime blessing.
Right.
He wants His little nickel and dime blessing. And it's amazing because that's all He came for. Because He wanted just enough, Brother Rick, to get him through another day. That's all He wanted. Just enough to get him through another day. Just get me through until Sunday night. Just enough. Give me just enough Sunday morning to get me back Sunday night. If it ain't good Sunday morning, I probably won't be back Sunday night because you didn't put nothing in my cup. Because I'm coming for myself. If I don't get nothing, I ain't coming back.
Come on.
Come on, somebody. Give me just enough Sunday night. Hopefully I'll have enough to get through Wednesday before I get so depressed I got to call the pastor. The pastor's why cast the devil off of me so I can make it to Wednesday night because I didn't get enough Sunday night. So give me enough to get me through Sunday to Wednesday night. And then hopefully I can get enough out of Wednesday night to get me through to Sunday morning. And then maybe I'll get through Sunday morning. I have enough for Sunday night. And it's amazing. Well, just enough to get me through. Aren't you tired of just getting along? I don't want enough just to get me through from Sunday. I want something in case something happens Wednesday night that I can't be here. It's going to sustain me until I can get back here. Come on, somebody. I want something imparted in my spirit so that when anything happens in my life, it'll sustain me until I get another outpouring. I don't just need a nickel or dime. I need an outpouring in my life. And so, I'm almost through. Sister Adams, This boy was a Jewish boy. Being a Jewish boy, he longed to go beyond that gate.
Right.
Because every Jewish man, boy and girl and woman wanted to go in the temple and worship God. That was their whole life. God was their life. And so not to be able to worship Him and be what God had created Him to be left an empty void in his life. And the reason he couldn't do it was because he was crippled. He could always get so close, and that was as far as he could go. Because that crippleness kept him from going any further.
Yes. Yeah.
It's amazing how many people can get so close and then all things starts happening. Everything in the world starts happening.
Right.
And they always get stopped at the gate.
Come on.
They always get stopped at the gate because there's some lameness on the inside. There's something going on the inside that they have yet to get healed. There'll be seasons in their life and they'll smile and be happy and be a good time. But the moment they start getting close, all this garbage comes to the top. Hell begins to use the garbage to keep them from going just beyond the gate. Because as long as you don't go beyond the gate, you're never really going to be what you were created to be, Brother. God had called this boy, being a Jew, to be a worshiper of Him. And so his relationship with God was hindered because of his lameness that was in there. And you'd be surprised at how many people will use their lameness as an excuse not to get close to Jesus.
So true. So true.
And what's happened in their life, or decisions that they made, or what's happened to them, or what people said about them, they use an excuse, and they get so close, and then when they get there, they can't go in because that stuff on the inside of them will not let them go any further into God's presence. Because that devil knows if I turn you loose, you're going to be something that you're supposed to be all the time. And that devil doesn't mind you sitting at the gate as long as you don't go beyond the gate. Because as long as you're sitting at the gate, you're dependent on everything else to help you through. Well, you know what? I don't want to limp into heaven. I really don't. And I definitely don't want to be carried into heaven. And you know what? I like to have some joy while I'm down here. I like to experience some happiness while I'm down here. And I want some laughter while I'm down here. And I can't do that sitting outside here on the gate on the porch. I need God to reach down inside of me and do something inside of me that'll call me to go beyond the gate so I can experience God like I have never experienced Him before. Understand? Sister Tina, this boy has never, except for the day that he was circumcised, he has never been beyond that gate. He has never been where he longs to be. His lameness keeps him from going there. His relationship with God has never been complete. His worship has never been complete. Nothing about what he was called to be is complete because of that lameness in his legs. He is called to worship. He is called to have a relationship with God, but this crippleness keeps him out of it. I'm sorry, you see. I'm going to be through here in about 5 minutes. And so, all of a sudden, he sees two familiar faces. Simon Peter and John come into the temple at the hour of prayer, which is the 9th hour, which is 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And they're coming to pray. He has seen these men before. This is not the first time that these men came into the temple. This is not the first time that he has seen them and they have seen him. Sister Adams, they come there, they probably come every day because that was a Jewish hour of prayer. And so they came every day to pray, and that man sat daily, the Bible says, which means every day at the temple. That was his begging spot, and so they walked by him every day. It is a good assumption because Jesus spent 3.5 years, and 3 times or 4 or 5 times during those 3.5 years he entered the temple. At least we know twice because he cleaned the thing out several times to teach. So it's a good assumption that even Jesus seen this man laying there, because this is only just a few days after the day of Pentecost.
And so we have a good assumption that even Jesus, when he went to the temple, has seen this lame man at the temple, and Jesus ignores the lame man. And for days, the disciples have ignored this lame man sitting at the temple. Now, I'm going to tell you something. It's an aggravating thing when you know that you serve a God that can do anything in the universe and he ignores you.
Come on. Right.
Am I boring you?
No.
Some of you look like you're ready to go sleep.
Come on.
And so here Jesus is. And, you know, and it makes you wonder, why would Jesus go to the temple as many times and often as he did, and then ignore a lame man at the temple and go and heal those that are inside the temple?
Right. Right.
Why would he clean the temple out and then heal everybody that walked in the temple or in the court of the temple? Why would he do that? Why would he walk by this one lame man every time he went? Why would the disciples walk by every time he went? You know, Jesus, when Lazarus died, the Bible says that Martha sent a message to Jesus that Jesus, he whom thou lovest is sick. And said, we need you to come and heal him. Now watch this. This is what Jesus said. I ain't coming. That's basically what he said. The messenger, which is the servant of Martha and Mary, comes to Jesus and said, Martha and Mary sent a word to you to come because the man that you love, that's the only man that he ever spoke of that he loved. He said, the man that you love is sick. And Jesus said, tell Martha I ain't coming. What would you do if you called the pastor up and said, Pastor, I need you to come pray for me, and the pastor said, I ain't coming? I'm going to tell you what most of us would do. You'd get offended and quit and go somewhere else. You see, we couldn't handle Jesus.
Right.
Jesus is totally different than what we think. You see, we think that Jesus, the little fairy guy, that he just pops there every time we poop, poop, poop. Jesus, poop. Okay, Jesus, I need to poop. Jesus, I need to poop. And Jesus don't do that kind of stuff. Jesus ignore you. Yeah, he would. Matter of fact, Jesus will walk into the hospital while you die with cancer and heal the one laying beside you, turn and walk out and let you die. Oh, he would. No, yes, he did. He did the pool of Bethesda. He healed one man. There was hundreds laying around there.
Right.
Come on, somebody.
Right.
Come on, somebody. See, we couldn't handle Jesus.
Come on.
See, we really couldn't handle Jesus because when Martha and Mary said, the one you love is sick, Jesus said, I ain't coming. I ain't got time right now. I mean, we would get upset if the shepherd, the under shepherd, said, I'm sorry, I'm busy with some other stuff. I'll get there when I can. We get so offended that we would hang the phone up and decide that we're going to go somewhere else to church because that man don't love us.
Come on. Come on. Come on.
You see, we really couldn't handle Jesus. Because when you call him, he just may tell you, I ain't coming.
Right.
And then he had the audacity to tell his disciples that Lazarus was asleep, and they didn't understand what he meant by sleep. He said, okay, I'm going to just be blunt with you. Lazarus is dead. They said, okay, we understand it. He said, no, you don't understand nothing. I'm glad he's dead. Now, how would you like for Jesus to look at your situation and say, I'm glad you're in the situation you're in?
Come on. Come on. Come on.
Come on, somebody.
Yeah.
I'm glad you're there. I'm glad you're in that situation. Because Jesus looked at him and said that Lazarus is dead, and I'm glad that you might believe. In other words, Jesus said, I let this happen to Lazarus so that you could believe that who I am, I really am.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Right.
I didn't let it happen. See, we think that all this stuff happens to us because Jesus don't care about us. But have you ever thought that there's something happening in your life because somebody's watching you?
Come on.
Come on.
You hear me? They're watching you go through all this kind of stuff, and they're watching you go through that hell, and they're watching you get your feelings hurt, and they're watching you get your emotions ripped up, and they're watching you be betrayed and forsaken and left in the night, and they're watching you go through, and they're watching to see how you're going to react to Jesus because he didn't show up when he thought he should have showed up. And Jesus, I'm glad that my servant's dead. I'm glad to think of God in his life. I'm glad to think of God in her life because I got something to prove. And when I get through proving, you're going to believe that I am who I say that I am. I mean, after all, Martha and Mary and everybody else knew him as a healer, knew him as a provider. But he goes to Martha and said, Martha, I am the resurrection. He didn't say that he would cause the resurrection. He said, I am the resurrection. The resurrection is not an event. If you're waiting on an event, it ain't going to happen. If you're waiting on the resurrection, he said, I am the resurrection. In other words, the resurrection is not an event, it's a person. That's why when there's a resurrection, know that Jesus is here. said, I am the resurrection. In other words, Martha, the reason I waited so long to meet your need is so there was a dimension in me, a level in me that you have never seen before. And so that these cats back here that don't believe in me might believe in me. In other words, I want to carry your faith to another level. That's what I'm trying to get you to see. And so Martha runs out to meet Jesus, and Jesus just stands there, and she goes, if you've been here 4 days ago, my brother would not have died. Jesus just stands there. He doesn't even respond to Martha. Hardly. He just said, well, he'll rise again. And they get this conversation, and finally he stands there, and the conversation's over with, and Martha takes off to Mary and said, the Master calleth thee. Did you know the scripture never said that Jesus said, where is Mary?
Amen.
He never asked about where Mary was. He's just standing there where Martha met him. Martha takes off back to the house to get Mary. And he said, when he said the Master called me, she jumps up from her weeping and crying. Her friends think she's going to the grave and takes off with her. When she gets to Jesus, she falls on her knees and says the very same thing. Master, if you'd been here yesterday, my brother wouldn't have died. But nevertheless, I know whatsoever thou ask the Father, He'll give it to thee. But she's on her knees. She fell at his feet, which was an act of worship. Martha could never move him. And Martha was a worker, but she wasn't a worshiper. And there's a difference between a worker and a worshiper. Now, you can be a worker and a worshiper, or you can be a worshiper and not be a worker. But you cannot be a worshiper and not work. Or you understand what I'm saying? Because if you worship God, you'll work. But just because you work doesn't mean you'll worship. Martha was a worshiper, a worker, but she wasn't a worshiper. Mary was a worshiper, and she understood, I cannot move Jesus. I'm going to go get the worshiper. And the worshiper showed up. This is what she said, where did you lay him? And they walked, and he asked why. Because when nothing else will move Jesus, I promise you, if you break out of your little box and start worshiping him, you can't move the Lord. I don't know how long you're going to worship, but if you put up, if you break out in your living room and quit sitting around thinking about all that junk you think about, and just break out in a praise service and break out in your worship service, you'll move God.
Come on.
Amen. And so Simon goes by and he asks alms of him. And this man's been laying here all this time. And Simon looks at him and says, I'm going to paraphrase. He said, I ain't got no money. That's Southern lingo. See, he was Galilean. That means he had an accent. And he didn't talk good Hebrew. He used the word ain't, which ain't a word. He said, I ain't got no money. Can you imagine the disappointment? Can you imagine coming to church? The pastor gets up and says, or the preacher gets up and says, I ain't got no message for you. What you going to do then? Because most of us only come for one reason. To hear the music and hear the preacher. But you didn't come expecting God to move.
Mighty God, that's so true.
And this man come to church expecting to get his dime or nickel and go home and do the same thing tomorrow. But he didn't expect to have any other experience.
Right.
And you'll be surprised how many people come to church. And they come because they know there's going to be singing. And they come because they think they have to come. And they come because it's a routine for them. But they never come expecting God to do any more than He's ever done.
Right. Right.
Mighty God.
And because there's no expectation, God doesn't move because God can't move without faith.
Mighty God, so true.
And
So
expecting
true.
is a faith. And so this man comes and he looks at us expecting to receive something. And his expectation, Peter took and said, I ain't got no money. I ain't got no money to give you. I don't have any money to give you. What I have, I will give you. You know what Simon was saying? He said, it ain't money that you need.
Right.
It's not money that you need. You go, can you imagine that lame man go, what do you mean this money's not what I need? It's not what you need. I got to have some money. I got to have something to buy food with tomorrow or today or before I go home. No, you don't need money. You see, you've had money every day and you're still in the same situation that you've been in the past 20 years.
Right.
Let me say that again. You got money yesterday, and you got some the day before. You got some the month before. You got some the week before, the month before, the year before, and you're still in the same situation you was in 20 years ago. You keep getting the same little blessing that keeps you in the same position. Aren't you tired of the same position? Get in a little good song, you need to move here. You've got another good message, you need to move here. You've heard all kind of good messages, and you've heard all kind of good singing. You don't need somebody else to lay hands on you, prophesy over you. You done had all that, and you're still in the same place you were 20 years ago. That's not what you need. What you need is for God to reach out of heaven, reach down in your spirit, and do some miraculous work in your life. That's what you need God to do. That's what Simon was telling him. What I got, I'll give you. What he was telling me is you don't need money. What you need is deliverance from the thing that's keeping you from going in and being what you're supposed to be. You need deliverance from the thing that hinders your tomorrow. You need deliverance that holds you hostage today and reminds you of yesterday. Let's all stand. And so, Brother PJ, Simon takes him by his right hand. In the name of Jesus Christ, of Nazareth, rise up and walk. Immediately his ankle bones got straight. And he stood up and he walked. For the first time in his whole life, he walked. For the first time in his life, he didn't have to have help to get somewhere.
God.
And the Bible says, Terry, the Bible says that he went leaping and praising God, not on the steps, in the temple.
Right.
He went into the temple. He has never been there before in his life. And for the first time of his life, he goes beyond the gate. Now, nobody has to tell him about the beauty.
Right.
Now nobody has to describe to him about the worship and the priest and the trumpets and the singers. Nobody has to tell him anything about that. Now he walks in and he now becomes a worshiper of God himself. He's went beyond the gate into God's presence. The thing that he's truly longed for, the thing that held him back was his lameness. He could not get beyond the gate because of his lameness. You'd be surprised how many people choose to sit at the gate.
Come on.
And the reason that we can't worship when everything is just right for us is because we're lame. And the reason we make excuses is because we're lame. You see, when you get healed, you don't have an excuse. When you get delivered, you don't have an excuse. Because you went beyond the gate.
Yeah.
The gate's pretty. But the gate is not, that's just the entrance. Can you imagine what it looked like with all the marble and all the gold and all the trumpets and all the priests and all that stuff going on inside? Can you imagine how beautiful the temple was on the inside? If that one gate that outvalued all the other 9, how much more beauty was there inside?